Hello, this is ProbableLoss, and I'm going to be getting into the second game of the day. This is going to be between the red Zerg Disable and the blue Protoss WawaCrates. WawaCrates spawning in the top position of Antigua Shipyard, and Disable spawning in the bottom left position of Antigua Shipyard. So, with the little time that I have before this video really starts to get intense, I'd like to say some other things that happen in my life and why they can slow down my ability to just cast a lot. Currently, I am in college and high school at the same time, which sounds weird, but the school that I go to is not very well funded. It's a public school, and most of the kids in said school do not care about being in school, and we have a really high dropout rate. People generally do not do very well. As such, we have very poor smart people support, and I am one of those smart people. So by senior year, this is my senior year, I have essentially run out of advanced classes to take, and I have already taken lots of college credit courses, a lot of AP courses and stuff online and things like that, because our school simply doesn't have them, because normally they don't have to cater to people such as me. So I found out that Penn State runs this program called PACE, and it allows me to go to Penn State and take actual college courses. This last semester, the fall semester, I took Intro to Chemistry and an English 15 course. And upon realizing that it is a lot of work on top of calculus and microbiology and anatomy, which I take at Tyrone, those three courses, it's just a lot of work. So this semester I only took one class so that I have more time. Like, this is why I can come to you in the morning. I commute and then I come home to my actual house, which is why I can't really cast during the day, because it's really loud. I have a sister and a brother. Both of them are loud all the time. So that makes it impossible for me to cast any time but, right around now, or weekend nights where I can take the computer to the basement and my mom thinks I'm doing something horrible with the computer, but really I'm just casting. So yeah, just can't wait till I'm actually in college, because I am going to Pittsburgh. I will be by myself. I will be able to cast all the live long day, and it will be great. And people will see me and they will say, hey, that is the kid who is failing his pharmacy courses because he casts all the live long day. And guess what? I love casting all the live long day. So I'm gonna try to get back into the game now, because I just noticed that it looks like Disable had built a Roach Warren and then canceled it. Not sure if that was for the extra supply or what. Kind of missed that a little bit. But I was gonna say earlier, I noticed that Disable was sending an Overlord in the correct direction. Was going up to the top, so he was able to scout Wawa's entire base. So that means that Disable knows exactly what's going on, and I think what he was going to do was do a one base roach rush, where he would have crushed a Forge Fast Expand, but unfortunately for him, he's not going for a Forge Fast Expand, and that prompted him to immediately throw down his additional base. It's actually really standard for a Zerg to try to hold off a 4-gate by just doing a 15 pull. With the 4-gate, you're usually saving up money to get additional gates out, so you don't have money to really spend on a lot of early units. So Disable is going to get out a starting 4 lings just so that he can get rid of that probe. Unfortunately, I do not think that the Zerglings are going to be enough to get rid of that Stalker. So we'll see what Disable can do here just to keep that Stalker away, because WawaCrates is doing a very good thing with that Stalker. He's forcing him to make a lot of Zerglings. And the micro for Wawa, pretty good. Not taking any whole damage on that Stalker. And something stuck in my throat. Sorry, it's still there, but I'm going to try not to make any awkward noises. Disabled, laying down some Spine Crawlers, really good. Spine Crawlers, great versus Stalkers. Spine Crawlers plus Zerglings, even better versus Stalkers. Speedlings, really good versus Stalkers. And it looks like Wawa is going to lose both of these Stalkers The one thing that you need to be careful of doing this type of early stalker pressure is exactly what just happened. If you see that many Zerglings come out, you can bet that metabolic boost will be on the way, so you need to sort of be prepared for that. And actually, what Wawa did was pretty brilliant. Disable is probably going to make a lot of army... No, Disable was actually going for an immediate Spire, but WawaCrates should have no trouble holding this off. He's only going to be able to get about 6 Mutalisks out, and Mutalisks themselves take long to build, and the Spire isn't quite done yet. So if he prepares adequately and gets some Photon Cannons up, WawaCrates should be able to deal with this easily, especially with all these sentries. Guardian Shield almost negates any sort of Mutalisk bouncing of that Glaive Worm, and you can see that Disable actually is opting to make 8 drones at once instead of going for the Mutalisks right away. And I think that may be the wrong choice. Had he decided to go for those Mutalisks immediately, he could have had some results. I wouldn't say not very good results, because he would have just warped in a ton of Stalkers, and he already had these to negate some damage with those Guardian Shields. But WawaCrates now getting out the Stargate. It's going to be fairly delayed, but if he gets out some Phoenixes, that's going to really help him in dealing with the Spire. Still not sure what the whole Spire thing was about, because he has not built anything and is working on getting 900 gas. So apparently what he's going to do is just get a huge swell of Mutalisks all at once. I guess maybe he doesn't want to show them off. But the longer he waits, the worse it's going to work out for him. Decides to spawn 10 Zerglings still, instead of getting out any sort of Mutalisks. And here comes a Void Ray, but that Void Ray will be able to get picked off by those Mutalisks. As you can tell, as I said, the reason I don't really like to cast, especially when I'm upstairs in the normal computer room, is even when there are no people here, it's very distracting. So I'm not sure if you guys heard the phone, but that was ringing in the background, and that was really distracting. But Disable going to move out with some Zerglings here, probably just going to check out what's going on. When is that? That Void Ray is nearly done. Disable not building anything, not really sure what he's waiting for. I think he was supply locked. Just now getting 9 Mutalisks out, getting his 10th. Still has 500 gas. I'm assuming that Disable is just going to go for the standard mass Mutalisks, and this is on the most recent patch, which means should WawaCrates decide to get Anion Pulse Crystals, it would be very helpful. I have not really watched that many pro games where that haven't seen that upgrade in a while. What's he talking about? I have no idea what he's talking about. Yeah, it's pretty much useless against anything but Zerg. Is he talking about Blink or Charge? Or what? I had to have missed something, and about that, I am really sorry. But anyway, you can see Disable already working on a pretty good Mutaflock, but kind of losing it due to some bad control. It wasn't terrible. WawaCrates is just reacting pretty well to this. He's going to opt to go Blink Stalker. I would assume that's what he's going to do. I don't know about that decision, because as I said, I have used that Anion Pulse Crystals, and it makes the micro for Phoenixes so incredibly easy that it's almost funny how quickly Phoenixes will shred Mutalisks with some. Now it's pretty minor micro, and that could just be because earlier when I was Protoss, I was pretty good with that Phoenix micro to begin with. But now I would assume Disable is going to just do another sudden swell of roaches. So far, Disable is definitely not in a good position. His income is not where it needs to be. He's actually behind WawaCrates. He does have a ton of Mutalisks, which can decimate a mineral line, but he doesn't have the larva that he needs to spawn enough Mutalisks, and he's opting to spawn roaches, which again, really weird choice. Doesn't have all that much larva. His larva injects are not very good. You can see he has tons of extra energy. He should lay down a macro hatch just to help him spend some of these resources, because he is really just kind of killing himself slowly with how poor his macro is, and his decision making is rather poor as well. And I think WawaCrates is going to try to secure his own third right here. Going to check to see if those rocks are going down. He sees that the rocks are healthy. He's going to pull back up. I would imagine that the third is going to go down here any time now, since he just scouted that out. Should probably spend those minerals. He has enough. Now he doesn't. He is spawning or warping in 3 zealots, getting that blink tech, getting upgrade level 1. Now, one thing that I would like to say, against a ball of mutalisks, if I am going with stalkers, I almost always favor armor, because these technically have 3 attacks, and 2 of their 3 attacks do very little damage, so every armor that you have negates more and more of that damage, so it goes down to 8 and then 2 and then 0.5 of a damage point instead of 9, 3, and 1, which is actually a pretty big deal whenever those worms are bouncing between your stalkers. But Disable, now because he had all that money, was able to kind of instantly spawn an army, and WawaCrates is going to engage at a bad angle, probably going to lose a stalker here. Manages to keep that alive, and now suddenly Disable is kind of in the awkward position. The Void Ray forcing the Mutalisks out of position right there, and you can see Disable is just going to move back to his base. There was a Zealot drop, it sounded like. Nope, just Zealots engaging at the front, actually. And these Zealots are going to get picked off easily. WawaCrates kind of just throwing those units away there. Lets the Stalkers blink to the back so that the Zealots are in the front taking damage, and the Sentries only do force fields. If the Sentries had done Guardian Shields, it would have helped a lot with those Mutalisks, not just a little. So now, WawaCrates actually looking to be in a pretty good position, although he's kind of just throwing Stalkers away, sort of like he did with those Zealots, loses yet another Stalker. Not looking all that good for him. In a very huge supply deficit. The only reason I would say he's still in the game is just because Disable's macro is... there's really no way around it. It's bad. It's just not good. And quite honestly, if he were to find some way to spend all these resources by getting a macro hatch and actually using the massive amounts of energy he has on the queens, he would be able to just mass Mutalisks. That's 17 Mutalisks. Had he added 17 to the original 10, WawaCrates' economy would be so bad that he would kind of have to GG right there. It wouldn't matter if Disable actually had an army that could fight. All he would need to do is just pick apart the economy, and WawaCrates wouldn't even have the army that he has right now if he had picked apart the army. So, again, not the best decision making by Disable, but it seems as though it's going to work anyway, because WawaCrates' decision making has been, I mean, even worse, I guess. I mean, he hasn't really reacted, and unfortunately, most of the time people say Zerg is supposed to be reactive, but in this case, WawaCrates should be the one reacting, because he sees that hardly any Mutalisks are coming out, and he needs to have an observer over there, and I don't believe he does. No, he does not have an observer over there. So, what I did was I just checked the vision, and I saw that there was no observer on Disable's side for WawaCrates, because he had no energy. And WawaCrates engaging in a bad choke, just letting this whole thing get picked apart. Not too sure if at this point it would be better for him to let it die or blink forward and kind of commit here. But, I mean, Stalkers are usually pretty good against roaches. So, at this point, I think he should have blinked forward. It wouldn't have been as bad as I had made it seem. Yeah, a blink forward definitely would have helped him there. WawaCrates went behind Dark Shrine, as Day 9 would say. Like I said, I think Day 9, probably one of my favorite casters. But just now, the DT is coming up here, going to do some damage. But all of these roaches spawn at once. still has way too many minerals, has almost maxed energy on these queens, is going to lose not that many drones. I think at this point he would probably be better off just picking off the roaches, because Disable already has a bad economy. The thing is, his economy may be bad, but his army can become gigantic. So yeah, by picking these off, I think he's actually doing the correct choice, or the correct thing. Because that will stop larva, which is really what Disable needs. So if he doesn't have this larva, he's kind of done. And then if we go back up here and look at home, WawaCrates is at a huge advantage and doing some long distance mining, which is good. There's no reason to oversaturate, because long distance mining is better than having an oversaturation. I believe the DTs are about to finally get all cleaned up here. That last DT is going to go down. And yeah, Disable really needs to just bring this queen up here and inject larva, and then he can go back down. It's not looking good for him at all. The income is close enough to even that it's not awful, but that's only because he doesn't have this base up yet. As soon as that base goes up, WawaCrates will be at a huge advantage again. And these roaches will not hold off this massive swell of stalkers, which are not going towards Disable's base. Disable's sorry, his biggest blunder of the game will be his lack of scouting. I mean, if he were to scout what is going on in Disable's base, he would know that he would be able to crush what he has. And Disable's scouting is pretty awful as well. Or no, I'm sorry, I thought that he was going to go for just trying to get rid of Colossi, but no, he's going to go straight for Broodlords, which is actually a really good decision. If WawaCrates had simply pushed out a little bit earlier, had scouting and known that he could have crushed that, he would be in a much better condition than he is right now. And all of that money that Disable had built up, if he had spent all of his money, to be fair, he probably would have won already, just because he would have had that many more units whenever WawaCrates did not. But all of that money that he had stockpiled would have come in handy right now. Just now getting those saturated. Disable is really not doing very good. He's not very good at macro, it would appear. And something that can kind of tip you off to someone who is not that good at macro. Disable, you can see that whenever he thought that WawaCrates was going to go for a Forge Fast expand, he immediately laid down the Roach Warren. That's a sign that kind of says, I don't want to try to go 3 base to 2 base with you, because my macro, I don't feel that my macro is good enough to take on a Protoss on 2 bases. And being that 3 base opening is the standard against a Protoss going for a Forge Fast expand, not going for what the standard is probably indicates that that player is not comfortable doing what is standard. So while it's not wrong, it's just saying that they don't really feel comfortable doing it. So if he didn't feel comfortable with doing that 3 base, it would make sense that he's not doing as well on this huge macro play. But now that both players are maxed out and Disable has a pretty large tech advantage just because of these Broodlords, I would say the advantage is now going to Disable. WawaCrates had such an enormous window of opportunity, but decided just to not take it, and that could cost him the game. And he's still only on Gateway, so his tech is at a huge disadvantage. He pings up here for some reason. Gateway, I would assume. Or maybe Idle Worker? No Idle Worker. I would assume that's just because the Gateway isn't open. And WawaCrates is going to go ahead and he's going to break down these rocks. Don't know if this is the best engagement. With this sort of army, you want to be in the open if possible. So that, I guess he doesn't have enough Broodlings for a surround to be good, but you still want to have a surround with the roaches. I would say. But with the blink forward and all of these roaches that were doing nothing, now doing something, I'm not sure if that was good or bad for WawaCrates. He is sniping these Broodlords, but the roaches are doing awful damage. And what it comes down to is WawaCrates did not have any scouting in Disable's base at all, which allowed Disable to use all of the money that he had built up into getting this huge tech advantage that we now see him having. And WawaCrates looks like he might... he's going to come around the back and pick off 2 Broodlords, which is huge, and he needs to get out of there right now, just buying time so that he can remain in this game. A really, really good decision on WawaCrates' part right there. Unfortunately for him, Disable is just going to spawn in 4 new shiny Broodlords. I guess they're not that shiny, they're kind of disgusting. But he is going to lose this 3rd base yet again, and these bases are all mined out, and this base up here is so oversaturated that it's not even funny. He's going to send even more workers down there, gets a 5th base up so that those workers have somewhere to work. And Disable is probably feeling a little bit overconfident right now after getting all of those Broodlords sniped, although some decent Broodlord micro will keep them alive, so that's good for Disable. But unfortunately, WawaCrates has no real tech. If he did get out a Void Ray, if he did get out a Carrier, it would be forced for Disable to actually use these Corruptors instead of just transforming them into Broodlords, which are so good, as you can really see. The Zealot's charging, but not doing all that much. The Stalker's just trying to find a position to pick off those Broodlords. It's not going to be enough. The Broodlords and the Roaches is a very good combination. This poor Stalker left to die. WawaCrates finally gets up that one gate that was not open, and I just noticed down here DTs are cleaning up everything. So Disable really has no economy left. The only problem is WawaCrates is about to have nothing left. And these Stalkers doing very little because of the awkward position they're in. Disable just plowing forward. WawaCrates still has a decent chance though. If he does somehow manage to kill this army, this is all Disable has. He is making very little money. He's about to lose another Broodlord after losing that other one. He cannot afford to lose this last Broodlord. That is going to be the clutch Broodlord if WawaCrates manages to hold off these Roaches. And there is an Overseer here, which means that DTs will do effectively nothing. Needs to get more Warpins at the main base to try to protect all of these critical structures. Unfortunately, he is not collecting any Vespene gas from anywhere. So these Stalkers are all that he has left, and unless he can pick this off with Stalkers and then get enough Zealots to do the damage that he needs to do, it is game over. Unless he wins a base race scenario, which he might win. If we go back and we check the income tab, Disable is actually, he made some new workers. So that's good for Disable. I'm really curious to see where those Stalkers went. They decided to just pull back, which, not sure if that was the right or wrong decision. I think what he's doing is just gonna let this base be scrapped. There's nothing that important in this base. He really needs to get some assimilators up before he does anything else. Getting up these gateways should be second to getting up assimilators, because he needs Stalkers. He absolutely needs them. And does he have... He does have one Cybernetics core on the way. Where is that Cyber core? This is the Cyber core. So he has that Cyber core going up. Finally getting the gas geysers going down, which he needed for a while already now. And not sure... These photon cannons actually have 2 kills, so that's impressive for that. Although it's possible that the kills were just from those Broodlings. So, ooh. I did not know that the upgrade advantage was favoring Disable so heavily, but the 3-2 is going to be better than the 1-1-3, definitely. Only has these 2 Broodlords, which means he has absolutely no anti-air at this point, and can't really afford to make any extra anti-air. He has all of this gas, but nothing to really do with it. If WawaCrates gets a Zealot or another DT warp in, although I don't think he has enough for DTs, he can do some more damage to the base, which he needs to do. That was the only reason he was really in this game, or remained in the game. But WawaCrates now getting a pretty big swell of Zealots, which can tank the Roach Fire, which can allow for a blink forward and a pick-off of these Broodlords. If he can pick off those Broodlords, this could be a very different game. All of these warp gates just gonna now finish their cooldown. Needs to do a big warp in of Stalkers. Needs to get those probes out of there. The only thing that WawaCrates has is his economy. The longer this goes on, the more it will favor Wawa. But he is losing all of his supplies, so cannot warp in anymore. Not warping in when his structures were cooled down while he still had those pylons could be the blunder that costs him the game, even though up to this point both players have made some pretty large mistakes. But I would say now, with Disable just having this army and WawaCrates not countering it properly, that's going to be more of the ending factor than anything else. I don't see how he could possibly hold here. He is closing in on his last base. WawaCrates finally GG's. And yeah, I'm just sort of surprised that Disable won because his macro was so bad, but I think what it came down to was he was able to be ridiculously cost efficient because WawaCrates only had Blink Stalkers, which can be good, but whenever you're at sort of, I guess, the league that he's at, and I mean, I'm not saying that he's bad, I believe he's better than me a little bit, but the better you get, the better Stalkers get. So if you are not top-notch with the Blink Stalker micro, then don't try to mass Blink Stalkers against Roach Broodlord. Get a Void Rays. Get something that can hit air, or something that can hit ground hard, like Colossi, and then something else to deal with the Broodlords. It was just bad unit composition on WawaCrates' part, and that would be why I believe he lost. So out of that game, take in that Blink Stalkers at any level, pretty much I would say below mid-masters, is not going to beat a Roach Broodlord composition, even if the other player has pretty bad not micro, macro. His micro was decent. So I'm going to come back and I will have one more video for you, I believe, today, unless that video is really short, because I do have to go back to school soon. So I have 2 more videos left to cast. I'm going to try to cast this next one, and then I will upload all of them at once. And that last video I will try to make as intense as possible, because that person has probably been waiting for a while. So I will see you guys when I cast that next video.